It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast and our Business Superpower Series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I'm excited to bring back to the show my very special guest co-host, Lau Lapidus. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a good day, Lau.
It's a great day. It's always a great day to talk voiceover. It's like we could, just saying, we could talk forever. This podcast should be like day and night. It should never stop, ever. Because we could talk so much about it and life and being a human being and all the things we care about.
There you go.
Alongside that.
So I do want to say that we recently just met and really clicked. And of course, I'm super excited that you are now representing me. And I thought about it because I love the fact that I think you get almost as excited, if not more excited, about providing me with opportunities than I do about being repped by you. And I thought it would be a great time to talk about, should we get representation? What's the deal with representation? Or should we not? Because I get that question all the time from my students.
Oh my gosh, I do too. It's an ongoing conversation. It's a great discussion to have. All questions are good questions. There's no answer to it. I don't think there's a specific answer to it, but the discussion is really important to have. And you're right, I do get really off on getting work for others. I love the feeling. And I was trying to think back when I was a performer full time. I don't know if I felt that way about even myself. Like I was always kind of that agent manager type. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like that Jewishy producer myself, you know, kind of thing, New Yorkie thing, whatever that is. I love it. I love it, not just for the work itself, but for the process of being able to get someone inside of something that they're on the outside of. It's almost like a secret. To me, it's like a safe. Like I get to help someone find the combination to the safe.
Oh, I love that.
And get inside of it and discover what the treasures are. Sometimes it's money and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a whole bunch of like a portal of a world that you weren't in before. It's Narnia's closet. That's what it is. I love it.
Well, I have to say, I've done casting myself, and I always love that. Let's fit this voice talent to this job. And it's wonderful when it comes together like that.
It is.
And so I think that having agents is a wonderful thing. However, agents only represent a portion of where I get my opportunities from. Yeah. And I always try to explain that to anybody who, like, when they first start getting into the business, they're like, when do I get an agent? I need an agent. I'm like, well, I literally was working in the industry for about 4 years full time before I got my first agent. I think it's helpful to really understand the role that agents play in helping to get work for voice talent. So let's start with you, Lau. Tell me a little bit about your role as an agent and what types of specific genres that you specialize in.
So I have now been in an agent capacity for about 2.5 years. So I'm still relatively young in the agent world. I was a coach and for many years still am, and a performer myself, still am. But I mean, that happened when we were right in the middle of COVID. And, you know, as a business thinker, immediately I start thinking, what problem can I solve? Who needs what? Who needs what? What's missing? What's missing? So we're Boston-based. In the New England market, I said, I don't know of any voiceover divisions. We don't have a department in an agency that's voiceover. We have some great studios that will do casting, but we just don't have that like a New York, like in LA has that. And I sort of aspired to be like the big guys. I always said, well, now we're in a global market, right? We're in the middle of COVID. We're locked in our houses. Everyone's still doing voiceover. And I said, what can we do? So I wanted to open this division, and I ended up pioneering the MCVO and opening it under the umbrella of Model Club. That's my colleague Tim Ayers, who owns and operates Model Club. So it was a really interesting, unorthodox way of working where this company, my company, Lau Lapidus, started to become a contractor to a licensed agency to start a division that we had the knowledge of how to do that. So we went ahead and did that, started stocking the roster. And I sort of have been around agents for most of my life.
That was stocking the roster, not stalking, right?
Stalking, like adding people in, adding voices in, like
stock.
Right?
Yes, not stalk.
No, not stalk. All right, I have to articulate that one really well, right?
I think that was that New York accent.
It was that New York accent. And I had to learn as I went, to be honest with you. I think this is the kind of trade that people who go into casting or go into agency work are working with agencies and working with casting, and they're apprenticing and they're learning how to do it as they go. You can't learn it in a classroom. It's not that type of thing. And so I was learning through the years how to do these things by kind of doing it. And this was a fit, and this was Kismet. And then I launched it. When we launched it, you can imagine we had immediate response from talent all over the place.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
That wanted to submit, because it's exciting simply to have a voiceover agency or voiceover division. And so that was kind of cool and exciting. And then figuring out, how do we connect to breakdowns, and how do we get some of the best auditions, and how do we connect the dots with current clients, whether they're regional clients or national clients, and just sort of spend time figuring that out and doing that. But we were lucky in the sense that we started getting great auditions almost immediately. Like,
that's great.
Between the clients that we already had, Tim already had, and my connections nationally, we started getting a lot of stuff in. It was almost overwhelming to find talent for that.
I want to just kind of interject here, because I think most talent don't think about what is a talent agency, right? And I just want to kind of bring it home and say, we need to understand that a talent agency or an agent, they are a business.
Yeah.
And their business is to match clients up with voice talent. And so they have their own work to do in terms of securing clients and advertising to clients that they have a great roster that they can help fulfill that need. So I think sometimes voice talent forget that agents, they aren't magic. They don't have magical clients. They have to do a ton of work to get those clients and to keep those clients. So understanding that an agent is also a business will help you to understand that once you have an agent, when you get an agent, there needs to be a relationship there where we both can benefit each other. And that agents are also in a business and need to make money. And part of that is by matching clients to talent. And if there is a profit margin there, then obviously the agent is going to work that deal. And the reason I bring that up, Lau, is because I think that a lot of agents work specifically in broadcast media, because there's opportunity for more profit there versus, let's say, a one-off non-broadcast sort of a deal. So maybe you can expand upon that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a baseline for people who are learning about agencies, or maybe wanting to tier up to the next level of a better quality agency. Just simply put, agencies are the middle people. They're the middle women, middle men. They're in the middle. So they're the contract dealers, the negotiation people, the people who find the talent, connect the talent to the job, help with casting. Though we're not casting directors per se. We don't take the place of a casting director, but we do help in all sorts of capacities. And we do get clients that say, hey, what are your thoughts? Like, can you help narrow this down?
You do shortlist, right? You do shortlist. I was going to say, You
do recommendations, you do shortlist. And because sometimes they happen very fast, they will rely on you to make quick recommendations and have very quick answers to questions. Questions on availability, questions on rate structure, questions on union status, questions on what their setup is in their home studio. So there's a lot of stuff that has to happen that goes through the agent that has to happen fast. And the reason they'll go to an agent, many reasons, but one is for speed. So that they know that they're going to have their stuff when they need it as quickly as possible. They don't have to chase the talent.
That makes sense. And they don't have to cast the net wide and make their own decisions. So, I think, so let me ask you a question. Do the majority of agencies, or is this really dependent, do they shortlist themselves, or it depends on the client? If the client is looking for...
Yeah, it depends on the client. And once in a while, you will have a private client that is with other agencies as well. So like if it's something that's on a national platform, or even a regional, if you're going through a casting office, they'll have other agencies. They'll be submitting their top talent from other agencies. They'll whittle that down fairly quickly, and then they'll, reach out to you. As an agency, you're never the only fish in the ocean.
Right.
I think what agents try to get is private clients. Like, we love private clients because we know, like, when I get a company that's, let's say they're a regional company and they're going to cast and they reach out to us, I know that but like 8 times out of 10, we're going to book that job.
Yeah.
We're going to book that job because they're privatized.
Sure.
We have a relationship with them. We can provide the same talent over and over and over again, whereas sometimes it's a hit or miss if you're going through casting.
And you're reliable. Exactly.
Right.
Just as we need to be as voice talent, right? Just as we need to be to our clients, right? Agents need to be that to their clients. Absolutely.
Exactly. So the relational factor is really, really important. And then, of course, they are assuming, and rightly so, that we're doing a screening process that they don't have to do.
Right.
They don't have to audition. They don't have to find the talent.
Right.
They don't have to do any of that. We're doing that.
They rely on you because they know that you have a roster of professional talents, that their studios have already been vetted. You already are familiar with the roster and their specialties and availability. That's another big thing, right?
That's
Who's available. And so that, I think, really takes care a lot of the tedious details that they don't want to have to deal with. And so
Oh, no. They don't want to deal with any of that.
they reach out and, oh gosh, do I even begin in saying like the naming of files, of audition files?
Oh, it's endless.
Who takes
it's
care
endless.
of that?
It's endless. And
That's right.
I always joke, it's like they don't want to have Jim in Cubicle C handling that because Jim doesn't know how to do that, if you know what I mean. Like they don't get any of that. And so it would be overwhelming to them to go into a big pocket of, say, thousands of voices and try to find what they're looking for. That would be way too overwhelming and time consuming to do.
Right.
So that's another reason why they still go to agencies, because they know it's not going to be thousands and thousands of voices. It's going to be the top 500 voices for boutique. And then out of that, the specific submission for the criteria of their breakdown. And then they've got their top 15, 20, 25 people, which is more than enough for them because they know, again, they're screened and they're top to find who they need. And it's funny because at the beginning, Tim went from, it's okay. I mean, if they have an iPhone and they can record on their iPhone, they don't need a home studio. To, okay, you need a studio with Source Connect. And I was like, no, we want the best talent nationwide, if not international, because we're now competing against very large agencies in the hub. So we don't want to short ourselves by saying, as long as they can jump on a phone and do something. No, we want to have the industry standards in place so that if we book a McDonald's ad or we book a Dunkin' Donuts, that we're really ready for that. Because they're auditioning your studio as much as they're auditioning you now.
Isn't that the truth?
Everyone knows.
That is the truth.
So the agent depends on that.
I love that we're learning about agencies from the agency's business side, because it really can help us as voice talent to understand like your day-to-day kind of activities. Like, let's talk about your day when you are throwing out an audition to people. So tell me, what do you do as an agent when you are casting?
Well, I'm a little bit unorthodox in the sense that I now run 2 businesses. So I run my studio, which is separate, very separate than the agency side from MC Inc. So when I run the agency side, we're constantly getting in auditions, which we've been filtered by the different relationships we have, the services we work with. But so they're coming in sometimes daily. They're coming in throughout the day. We're looking at them, making sure that they're legit, they're coming from where they need to come from, and then getting them out as quickly as possible. And that can be a challenge too, because if we're working on other work or we're recording or we're coaching or we're whatever, we have to really multitask or stop what we're doing to do that, because I know once that audition comes to me, there's a chance it's gone out to X amount of other agencies.
Right.
So I got to get my sneakers on and get that out really fast before some of my talent may get that from another agency.
Sure. Now, question, in terms of like audition deadlines. So this is the bane of my existence, right, with my agents, right? Because I don't have a lot of time during my day. However, so when my auditions come in from my agents, I want to turn that around quickly, as quickly as I possibly can. So when you understand, let's say, okay, here's your audition, deadline is this date. Are you determining that date for your agency, or is that the client that's determining that date?
Well, the client gives us the truest date that they have. I don't know how accurate it is to their inside process, but they'll give us the hard deadline of what they need. Then we'll move the deadline in so that we have time to process it.
Sure, sure.
And we also have time for retakes. So let's say there's someone that we have to have in on this audition, but he's on vacation and he's in the mountains and he has no reception, but he can do it tonight or tomorrow. We'll hold that for him so he can do that if possible. So we always time it. So let's say it's due Thursday at 5:00 p.m. Eastern. We'll time it so that we're getting it in by like Wednesday, if possible, so that we can process it and leave time for problems as they arrive.
And so when you say process it, you are downloading the audition file. You're doing shortlisting if you have to, if your client has asked you to, correct?
Yeah.
And so is that you personally, or do you have a team that helps you to do that?
We have a team. I have a team that helps me do that. And the industry standard now is Dropbox, so we're all using Dropbox to transfer our files. And even going out now, I'm watching slates go out. So slates are slowly going out where we're sending in a zip or we're sending in a pack, and they know where it's coming from, so we don't actually need a slate. So some of the private clients and some of the companies we work with say, no slate, we don't want to hear it, we don't need it. Great.
Okay, nice.
One less thing to do. That's good.
Sure.
And then we try hard to establish our own protocols if they don't give us direction on labeling and they don't give us direction on this or that. We try to say, listen, we're just not always getting that from the client because they don't care about it, they don't know about it, and it's not relevant. So just do this. When you don't hear about it, just do this.
Whoever has to download the files, this is the way I feel. Whoever has to download the files needs to be the one that determines how the file gets named.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes agents will send it out and you just won't get that direction. And people are confused. They'll say, wait a second, am I missing something? I'll say, no, they didn't give us that direction. We're not giving it to you. So just go to your default. We always label like this. Label like this.
I would say name, project, and Ganguza dash, and then name of the job. That's my default.
I do say, and one of the biggest things you can have as a benefit for yourself is speed, because ours are not that speedy. We're not like a pay-to-play site where you have to get it in 10, 15 minutes. We'll give you a day. We'll give you 2, even 3 days sometimes, like a really long time. But if people are going to wait until the third day, what'll happen is, like, I already know there's a natural bell curve in every roster. I know, like, the top voices we have, unless they're already on another gig or they're on vacation, they're going to submit within about an hour or two. And I just know they're going to be the first ones up for it because, A, they're great, like you, but B, they may cut that audition off because they may get enough in the first day, and then they don't need to listen to day 2 or day 3.
Right.
So I just say to people, don't put yourself under a terrible rush, but don't wait until the last minute either. Get it in as soon as you possibly can. Move it out of the way because those, as I notice our booking ratios, those people tend to be booking more than folks who are waiting longer.
The ones that get it in first.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They are.
That makes sense. Because at some point, too, I think that we have to realize that when you're listening to so many auditions at one time, at some point it starts to become like white noise.
I would imagine it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
It's hard for us to listen to demo submissions sometimes. Because if we get 10 or 15 at a time, it's time consuming and we want to give it what it needs, the attention that it needs, but we have to be careful with the time.
It just brings me back to this is what we're always saying is that you need to differentiate yourself from the pack when you're sending in that audition. And it doesn't mean that you're different. It's like a lot of times I'll look at the specs and I'll be like, okay, I get it. But I still want to add my own unique spin on it because everybody else is going to look at those specs and try to do it exactly like those specs or what we think they want to hear. And so I think making it more unique in that audition, I mean, for me, it's what have I got to lose in making it unique? I mean, if I can make it unique, they're going to know that I have the capability of making it sound just like in my head it says it should sound like. So I'm not going to give them that. I don't want to give them what I think it should sound like. I want to give them that unique take so that it makes them wake up. It makes them get me the gig, and then they can direct me to whatever they want afterwards.
And do it up front because you don't know if they're going to listen to your entire demo.
Exactly.
And some of the demos we get are not even industry standard. They'll go on for 2 or 3 minutes. And very rarely will we listen to a 3-minute demo just because we get it, like the first 2 reads or 3 reads, like we get it. We get what you can do. So put something up front that's your strong suit, something you get hired for all the time, and then put something that's incredibly diverse and varied from that
Sure.
right next to it.
Are you talking audition or are you talking demo? So, like,
I'm
if
talking
we're
demo.
asked to okay,
I'm talking demo, but also audition. I
Yeah,
would say
uh-huh.
audition as well.
Okay, yeah.
Because let's say they don't say how many takes they want. I'd say, okay, if you can do 3 unique takes, do 3 unique takes, right? What's
Yeah.
the worst? They don't listen to them all. But if they do and they really love your voice, make them super diverse, super
Yeah.
unique, and very pinpointed as to where you live and where your voice lives, because there wouldn't be any reason to send in more than 1 take that
Yeah.
sound the same.
Right,
And that's
right,
a very
exactly.
common mistake that people
Yeah.
make, Otherwise, just send 1 great take. Just do your best take, 1 great take, and call it a day. But if
Yeah.
you can do diverse,
completely
varied
different.
reads, do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
absolutely. So now let me ask you a question. So when should voice talent search for an agent? Is there a time?
Again, I'm really unorthodox about that. I know a lot of agent friends I have say, don't talk to me until you get like 5 years under your belt. You've already been with an agency. I got some good credits and I love your demo and I trust you because that's what I represent. And I get that. I don't feel that way, actually. I feel like people should be up for it when they feel ready. And then it's very quick to tell if we think that they're ready. Even if they haven't worked yet, even if they have no resume. We've taken in some people that are amazing that are new. They're just new. They're coming in. They did a beautiful demo. They're clearly professional in the way in which they write to us. I just instantly like them. I said, why would I hold them back on the basis of like that they haven't worked?
They haven't
have
had
to get
years
work
of-
to work. So if we love their voice and we feel like, oh, we've got a market for their sound, bring them in, right? But the bread and butter voice is always going to go first because we have a lot of fans of animation and video game and all of that great stuff. It's just for us. It's not going to be the big market for us. And it isn't for a lot of agencies. I think agencies more and more are bringing in slowly animation opportunities, but much of their stuff is just real person stuff.
I'm glad you said that. So I'm going to say some agencies specialize in just animation or that's their thing. And I would say that those would be located more in the places like LA and those markets where animation is there. But in terms of other agencies, I'm going to say, your bread and butter is commercial for the most part, right?
Yeah. It is. For the most part, it is.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we'll see an animation come through. We'll see a narration come through. We'll see a couple different things. But yes, and I have found that with friends that run agencies too. Once in a while, they'll get a great industrial or a really nice e-learning piece. But much of the time, they're just doing as many nationals as they can get in and as many of their regional market and their local folks as they can get in to really, really pay the bills.
Good. I'm so glad you said that. And I just want to kind of make that point to the bosses out there. It becomes, where can you make a profit? And I don't mean to make all agents to be all like hungry, profit-driven people, but you are a business. And so for the most part, those nationals and those regionals, those are the ones that are bringing in the money and the consistent money that will be able to make a profit so that you can survive as an agency. So then I want to also point out that if you are a voice talent and the majority of your business is e-learning or corporate and that sort of thing, I have a ton of, and I know a lot of voice actors where they have a lot of work in that area. That happens to be where I do a lot of my work as well. So in terms of, for me, when I was getting agents, I have like 10 agents all scattered around. It doesn't mean that I get auditions from all 10 agents all the time. And I have certain agents that I work closely with because I book with them and we have a relationship. And so that's where my auditions come from, my agents. So I will take the time to do that. But those jobs that they're offering, they're almost all broadcast commercial genre. And I do get a couple of industrials once in a while from one of my agents. And so if you bosses are out there, if you are not necessarily booking in commercial yet, or you're not interested in commercial, then maybe an agent, you don't need one right away. I think everybody should have an agent. I think everyone at some point should have a commercial demo. But if that is not in your future, that you don't like commercials, you don't think you'd ever want to do one, and you just want to spend your career doing e-learning, then that's absolutely fine.
Absolutely. By no means do you have to have an agent in order to work, because the world is filled with so many different wonderful genres of voiceover. You just need to be inventive and clever about doing your homework and doing your research in these different genres. Like, for instance, I recently brought into our studio one of the big romance and erotica voiceover instructors, and she did a wonderful workshop for us. And I knew nothing about that. I just didn't know about, and she talked a long time, a good hour, about the business of it, like where to find work.
Oh, yeah.
How to list your name, how to do this, how to charge your rates. And I think, wow, this is great. So do I need an agent for that? No, I really don't. Yeah. Could I get an agent later in the right market? Probably, but you don't need it. So you have to determine, gee, okay, if this is my bread and butter market, I probably want to get an agent to get the upper level auditions. But in these other areas, I can probably make my own inroads and my own connections.
Absolutely.
To get some great clients and do a combination of the two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bosses, it's not necessary to have an agent to get work. You can get work in multiple genres without necessarily having an agent. But I'm the type of person that I like to have opportunities, as many opportunities as I can. Yeah. Thus, I think it's wonderful that I have these amazing agents like Lau, that are on my team. They're on my side. They want to see me work. They want to get me work. And it becomes a relationship, just like you have a relationship. And I love that we talked so much about your business of the agency, because a lot of times voice talent don't think about it and they don't realize it. And I think if they understood the perspective from your side as a business, it helps us to form, I think, a better relationship with you, because we understand where things come from. And why do I get that audition at 8:00 at night? Well, because all day long they've been fielding emails and dealing with clients, and you're getting it out as quick as you can to us.
Yeah, and maybe it's coming from a different time zone.
There you go. Exactly. So there's lots of things that we may not think about when we get an audition in for our agent. And also in terms of like, well, is my agent listening to me and shortlisting me or not? Or is it the client? Or how do I know that this audition wasn't sent out to hundreds of other people? And I think the really good agents understand the opportunity and will send it to the group of people that would be great for the opportunity. Sometimes I have agents that it seems like maybe they didn't do that. Maybe I just got like the generic send out all auditions to all the roster. And therefore, I make my own decision.
Yeah, I know. People hate that. They're not filtering.
I know, but I'm thankful for the opportunity. And so, I mean, come on, we can all handle looking at audition and looking at the specs. If you don't fit the specs, don't respond.
I was always the same way, too. I was
don't feel like it's a big deal.
Not for me.
Yeah, I would never complain about that. It actually kind of bothers me that I see some people complaining about that, the cattle call auditions. I'm like, my gosh, it's an opportunity. And it takes me a minute to look at those specs and read them and say, do I fit those specs? Am I male? No. So guess what? Thanks. I'm fine. Just waiting for the next one. So
it would be like clients just from different businesses calling you or emailing you. You'd be like, do you know we don't do that? That's not what we do. And I'm surprised you would call me. I would say, oh, how interesting. Let me refer you to someone, or let me find out more about you. What have you?
I like that, right? And that goes back, like, look, if I got a casting spec, and I've done this before, where it didn't fit me, but I said, oh man, I know a perfect voice for that. I actually would write back to that agent and say, I have a great recommendation. Can I send this audition? Would you be open for me to send this audition? Yeah.
I love you. I love people like you. And I have a number of people in MCVO that do just that. They say, Lau, you know it's not me, but I've got friends who are actually this. May I forward them? And I'm like, yes, I love that.
That's why I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to get the opportunity. And I just look at it as like, look, it's another, I get tons of email. It's okay. I can filter. It's not that big of a deal. It takes me a minute.
You think like I think. It's just another job. And why don't I want to see a job? I'm going to keep the script. I'm going to have it as a reference. It's interesting to see who the producer is. I love it.
Yeah, you learn a lot. Like, so what if that audition wasn't for me? Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that script, right? You can just choose to learn. It's like one of the things, just an off topic, but when people say, well, how do I get work in corporate, right? And I say, well, I go to company websites and I sign up for their mailing list because I want to see who their audience is and how they're marketing to it. And so if I get the job with that company, I have a background information where I understand who that company is, who their audience is, what their brand stands for. I have all that knowledge that I can can then use in a audition for them or in a correspondence with them. And so the same thing, you can learn a lot. So
I'm exactly like that. Like as business people, as bosses, you want to be inquisitive. You want to be curious. You want to know like, what's happening in that world? Oh my goodness. Who are they talking to and what are they concerned about here? And who are they looking for? I always say like when you get an audition, get used to hopping on your smartphone, just like really fast. Look up an advertising campaign. See the kinds of actors they're bringing in. What does the company visually look like? What does it sound like right now? Just get a flavor of that.
Absolutely.
You may not have time to do massive research, but just to hop on for 5 minutes. Like we need to be able to do that as business people. If we're going to work with a new client,
Absolutely.
sorry. So don't you hate, Ann? Oh, sorry, I didn't have time to go to your website. Sorry, I don't know exactly what you do. So, it's at your fingertips. Just jump on for 5 minutes to have a little bit of language.
If you're a student of mine and you didn't check out the website, like that is just no.
Or go on YouTube.
That
see
is
if they're on
not
YouTube.
acceptable.
What are
that
they
is
doing?
not acceptable.
You know?
Not acceptable that you did not research the company. But like it takes a minute.
And what about this one? I don't know how to pronounce this. How do you pronounce it?
Oh my God.
I said, well, go online. Have an actor say it so that you hear what it sounds like. Don't just guess at it or not worry about it.
We need to act like bosses, the bosses that we are. So what a great conversation. I love this. Was such a unique perspective. Thank you, Lau, for sharing that with us and sharing with the bosses. I think that's amazing. I would like to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can network and learn like bosses. Find out more at IPDTL.com. And also, if you want to make a difference with your voice and give back to those communities that give to you, check out 100voiceswhocare.org to find out how you can give back and have a sense of purpose. All right, guys. Amazing talk. Thanks again, Lau. We will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, bosses.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.